1. Dustin Johnson. When LIV Golf needed credibility, they didn't go after a rookie or a mid-tier name. They got Dustin Johnson. He was the biggest signing that made LIV feel real. Johnson was ranked top 10 in the world when he walked away. Two-time major winner, FedEx Cup champion, Ryder Cup star. This wasn't a guy fading away. This was one of the faces of the PGA Tour. What shocked everyone wasn't just the decision, but the way he handled it. Dustin isn't a talker. He isn't a guy who delivers speeches. When he said he was leaving for LIV, he kept it short. He called it a business decision. That line stuck. Johnson had always been about simplicity. Swing smooth, play fast, keep moving. The deal was rumored at $125 million. For someone like Johnson, who doesn't care about attention or arguments, it was perfect. It secured his future and his family's future. When the PGA Tour responded by suspending him, Johnson didn't flinch. He resigned his membership and said he didn't regret it. On LIV, Johnson became captain of the Four Aces. That team dominated the first season, and Johnson himself won the 2022 season-long individual title. Even if some fans downplayed LIV's competitiveness, Johnson's play looked the same. 2. Phil Mickelson. Phil Mickelson didn't just leave for LIV. He built the runway for it. Before LIV even held its first tournament, Mickelson was already at the center. He gave that infamous interview where he admitted the Saudi backers had scary human rights issues, but said he wanted leverage against the PGA Tour. Those comments nearly ended his career. He vanished from public view for months. He skipped the Masters. The same Phil who always loved the spotlight went completely silent. Then he came back, at LIV. For Phil, this wasn't about money alone, though he did reportedly take a deal in the $200 million range. For him, it was revenge. He'd always battled with the PGA Tour over control of media rights, over the schedule, over how players were treated. LIV gave him the perfect weapon. They gave him money, a captain's role, and a chance to shake up the sport. Mickelson at LIV was a different figure. He wasn't just the smiling, thumbs-up crowd favorite. He became a lightning rod. Crowds booed him at some events, cheered him at others. At the 2023 Masters, he turned back the clock with a Sunday 65 to finish runner-up at age 52. 3. Brooks Koepka. Brooks Koepka didn't just leave the PGA Tour. He left after swearing he never would. Koepka had built his image as the anti-establishment guy. He mocked reporters, downplayed golf as just a job, and always carried himself like he was above politics. When LIV came calling, he initially dismissed it. He said he was loyal to the majors, that he didn't need it. Weeks later, he signed. The reason became clearer as time went on. Koepka had battled injuries for years. His knee surgeries left him doubting if he could ever be the same player. LIV offered shorter schedules, guaranteed money, and less pressure. For someone who wasn't sure how long his body would hold up, the move made sense. Koepka came back to life. In 2023, he won the PGA Championship, his 5th major. That win wasn't just a trophy, it was a statement. He showed he was still the big game hunter, the guy who plays his best when the lights are brightest. 4. Patrick Reed. Patrick Reed leaving the PGA Tour wasn't shocking. Reed has always been polarizing. Fans either admire his fight or dislike him for past controversies. He'd already built a reputation as Captain America in Ryder Cups, but also as someone who carried drama everywhere he went. When LIV started, Reed fit right in. He joined early, he embraced the team concept, and he leaned into the villain role. Reed has been one of the most visible LIV players in courtrooms too. He filed multiple lawsuits against media outlets, journalists, and even the Golf Channel. It kept his name in the news as much as his golf. On the course, he stayed competitive. Reed is a grinder, the kind of player who will find ways to post scores no matter the format. At the Masters, his connection to Augusta kept him relevant. Reed finished high in 2023, reminding people that he's still dangerous when he finds form. 5. Jon Rahm. Jon Rahm was the earthquake. When LIV Golf landed Dustin Johnson, it made people take notice. When they got Cameron Smith, it proved they could sign a major champion in his prime. But when Rahm left in late 2023, it shook golf to its core. Rahm wasn't just another star. He was world number 3 at the time, a Masters champion, a US Open winner, and at 29 years old, he was entering his peak. He had been one of the PGA Tour's loudest defenders just months earlier. He had called LIV's format not serious. He said he wasn't motivated by money. Then he signed a deal reportedly worth north of $400 million. The reaction was immediate. Rahm had been seen as the player who would carry golf's next decade. Losing him wasn't just about one player. It was about momentum. If LIV could get Rahm, they could get anyone. He was named captain of a new Spanish-backed team, which gave him the ability to shape something from the ground up. On the course, Rahm still looked like Rahm, fierce, competitive, emotional, and powerful. Fans who thought LIV might dull his edge quickly realized nothing had changed. He was still capable of winning anywhere. Rahm's decision forced golf into merger talks. It was one thing for LIV to have older stars or injured players. 6. Adrian Meronk. Adrian Meronk's move to LIV came with timing that made waves. He had been one of Europe's fastest risers, a towering presence with a calm, efficient swing that looked built for majors. When his name showed up on LIV's roster, the European golf community reacted louder than most. Not because Meronk had won dozens of titles, but because he was seen as a key piece of Europe's future in the Ryder Cup. Meronk was fresh off big wins on the DP World Tour. He captured the Irish Open and the Australian Open, then looked primed for a Ryder Cup debut. Many thought he was going to be one of Luke Donald's picks, but his decision to go LIV cut those chances short. In the world of team golf, loyalty matters as much as form, and once he stepped across, he carried the risk of being left out, no matter his results. For LIV, signing Meronk was about long-term value. He brought Poland onto the map, giving the league a foothold in a country that had never produced a major golf star. A player in his prime, tall, marketable, and with the game to contend anywhere, he became one of LIV's smarter acquisitions. 7. Tyrrell Hatton. No one doubted Tyrrell Hatton's intensity. On the PGA Tour, he was known as fiery, sharp with words, and brutally honest about the state of his game. That same fire carried him into big moments, including a win at Bay Hill in 2020. When rumors spread that he was considering LIV, most assumed his temperament might not fit in a team-heavy format. But LIV leaned into it. Hatton joined as part of the European wave that made the breakaway tour feel more complete. With Jon Rahm already signed, LIV added Hatton to bolster their European lineup and strengthen the Iberian-UK connection. It wasn't just a player signing, it was about stacking recognizable personalities. Hatton's role went beyond swings and scores. He was someone who could bring edge and unfiltered energy to broadcasts. LIV wanted characters, not just golfers, and Hatton fit the mold. His Ryder Cup future, like Meronk's, instantly came into question. Hatton had been a staple for Europe, a fighter who thrived in team battles. Walking to LIV put that in doubt. Yet the paycheck and security were undeniable. For Hatton, it wasn't just about chasing trophies. It was about securing a future in a sport that often gives little back once your prime fades. LIV gave him both a stage and insurance, and he took it without hesitation. 8. Joaquin Niemann. Joaquin Niemann was one of LIV's most strategic targets. At only 24 when he joined, he was already a proven PGA Tour winner with sky-high potential. Chile had never had a golf star of his caliber. That mattered. LIV could market him across South America while also building toward a younger roster. Niemann's decision was as much about leadership as it was about money. LIV gave him his own team, Torca GC, and full control of its direction. That was something the PGA Tour could never offer. On top of that, he avoided the grind of playing nearly every week. LIV's shorter schedule gave him room to grow, train, and still show up sharp at majors. Most defectors were established names with majors in the bank. Niemann was still climbing, still trying to prove he belonged among the elite. But his bet was simple. By taking control early, he could shape his brand and his career his way. 9. Hudson Swafford. Hudson Swafford's arrival to LIV flew under the radar compared to the heavyweights, but his signing mattered in a different way. He wasn't a headline name, He wasn't a major champion. He was a solid pro, a PGA Tour winner, someone who had carved out a respectable living but never quite reached the top tier. For players like Swafford, LIV wasn't about leaving behind massive endorsements or legacy spots in majors. It was about stability and recognition. On the PGA Tour, he was often in the shadows, grinding to keep status. LIV gave him security, a salary, and a chance to be part of something with more visibility than he'd ever had before. His move also highlighted what LIV represented to mid-tier players. It wasn't just a haven for former stars or major winners. It was a second chance for those who felt overlooked in the PGA Tour structure. 10. Sergio Garcia. Sergio Garcia was one of LIV's most complicated pickups. By the time he made the jump, his career arc was shifting. He had his Masters win in 2017, plenty of Ryder Cup heroics, and a reputation that swung between brilliance and frustration. The decision to join LIV wasn't shocking, but it carried weight because of his Ryder Cup legacy. Garcia had been the heartbeat of Europe's Ryder Cup teams for 2 decades. His passion, his fire, and his ability to deliver in that format made him a legend. Moving to LIV instantly clouded that future. Could Europe's greatest Ryder Cup point scorer still play a role after walking away from the tour? On LIV, Garcia found a new purpose. He captained Fireball's GC, bringing together Spanish-speaking players and giving the league a cultural identity in Latin golf. For Garcia, it was also personal. His relationship with the PGA Tour had soured, his frustrations had boiled over, and LIV offered a clean slate. The money was there, yes, but so was the chance to lead, to have freedom, and to play golf without the constant weight of a tour he no longer believed in.